Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
It's really cool to chat with you because in terms of parties, I can't think of a better person to talk to, especially during TIFF.
Well, there probably are a few out there, but I'm definitely, I get my leg work done, let's say, this week.
Tell me a little bit about it. So, first off, what's your experience? Like, how did you start out, how did you become a brand ambassador?
Well, I actually started out in wine, funnily enough. Actually, very early on, I started out as a piano player.
Really?
And then I started bartending in New York, and I studied wine. And so my kind of focus was that, and I came across Grey Goose probably around that time.
Huh.
It was a brand that I just loved. I remember being in New York and receiving, they used to ship Grey Goose in wooden crates, like
Right.
a Bordeaux bottle was shipped, and I remember this bottle showed up to the bar. We were like, "What is this?" And it was beautiful, and we tried it, and I fell in love with it right then. And then I started working in various bars around the world. So I've worked in Istanbul, in Munich, Germany, in London, which is where I live now.
Wow.
And every bar I worked at, I worked with Grey Goose, and I always had an affinity for. So when the opportunity came up to be the ambassador, I just jumped at it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then, what's it been like? Because I understand you've done some very high-profile events.
I have, yeah. I'm very lucky because of the fact that Grey Goose has from the last 8 years really been focused around films.
Right.
And partnering with directors or producers or studios that really have the similar kind of ethos or spirit of Grey Goose, and so that ends up meaning that we get to work with some really fantastic people and put on some really fantastic parties. And I think the thing that's really great is for us, you go to an event and we always want it to feel like it's not just any event, that it's a Grey Goose event.
Right.
And there's a lot of touch points that make that happen, and hopefully 90% of the stuff that you don't even notice, you don't even know that you're touching, is what makes that happen. So that you leave at the end and you're like, how come out of, there's got to be 100 events going on here in Toronto this week, how come this one particular event stood out of all of those? And that's what excites me.
So what are some of those tricks? Some of the things you can divulge? I'm sure there's industry secrets, of course. Yeah.
No, I mean, one thing is the cocktails have to be exquisite.
Right.
And that's not always the easiest thing to do for a large-scale event.
Right.
There's a lot of factors. One is just making really great cocktails, making it balanced on a large scale. The other thing is actually that sometimes the actors, the guests, don't want to be pushed,
Of course.
outside of their comfort zone. There's so many other things going on that they're like, just give me something easy like a glass of champagne. And so we find out ways around it. For instance, for the champagne thing, I created a drink called the Grey Goose Le Fizz, which is served in a flute. It has elderflower liqueur, Grey Goose, bit of lime, and some sparkling water, and so it really looks like champagne. And it tricks people because they say, "Oh, I'll just grab and then they take a sip and they're like, "Oh wow, that's nice," and hopefully it's a pleasant surprise. The other stuff we do, we work with fantastic partners, and so when you work with someone like the Thompson Hotel, who we work with here, or we work quite closely with Soho House Group,
Right.
who are phenomenal at delivering really top quality events. So there's ways around it, but I think having a theme, making sure that you know that what your drinks are all about, making sure that you've seen the films for the parties that you're doing,
Right.
that makes a big difference as well too.
So what do you, going into TIFF, because you've done it a few years, what are you doing differently this year? What are you thinking of?
Couple different things. So yeah, this year, well, we tried to do a really beautiful kind of spread of our cocktails, and we're actually doing the same cocktails this year at every event.
That's cool.
Which is a new kind of take on it for us. So you've got one kind of slightly more bitter and maybe kind of more challenging style of drink. Then on the opposite side, you have a very fresh and aromatic and floral cocktail. And then in between that, you have something that's kind of long and refreshing. So this year, we really thought about if you were walking into a top cocktail bar, you want the cocktail list to have something for everyone.
Right.
And that's what we did this year, which is quite different. Apart from that, I think it's new films, there's a lot of excitement around what's going to be out there, who's going to be the first to see it, and I think that that in and of itself gives a lot of energy to the week.
The other thing is, after all these events you've done, anything pop out at you that you remember doing? You're like, wow, I can't believe how that turned out.
Gosh, there's so many little things that happen. I mean, I remember last year, actually no, this is 2 years ago, at TIFF, and this really stuck out of my memory. We did an event that Julia Roberts was coming to, and the day of the event, actually I think it was like the night before the event, somebody told me that she loves Grey Goose Le Citron, which is our lemon vodka, which is fantastic news. The only problem was at that time, the Ontario board, the liquor board, LCBO, didn't stock this particular item.
Wow.
And so we had to have it flown in, the one bottle, just directly for that moment. And
that's amazing.
Now, thankfully, we launched Grey Goose Le Citron this year. So it's here, it's around.
That's very cool.
But I remember that day just being like, what am I gonna do? And that's one of those things that you never know what will happen.
That's a very VIP thing. We're gonna fly this ball in. Julia Roberts is worth it, right?
To be fair, I had a friend who was coming anyways, and I basically had him buy the bottle and put it in his luggage. And
that's still pretty cool.
So it wasn't like a horrible use of, we're not ruining the environment for Julia Roberts, but it was a good way of making sure, because you want to make sure that you have something for everyone, especially if you know what they like.
Well, if you actually know that that's what they want, that's
exactly
amazing.
Yeah. So, and then there's some other. I mean, there's some great. I love it when an actor or actress knows exactly what they want, and that's happened many times where I'll be working, I'll be at one of our events, or I tend to do not necessarily be behind the bar. I'll do a little bit of both in front of the bar so I can kind of pass out the drinks.
Right.
And when you have somebody who's just so focused on exactly what they like, that's always quite exciting too.
That's cool. What's the venue mean to you guys when you guys are doing these parties?
I think the important thing is that the venue has to reflect the same kind of luxury credentials that we hope are evidenced with Grey Goose in and of itself.
Right.
I mean, Grey Goose is a French vodka.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first super premium vodka from France, and so we always want to be partnering with a venue that reflects that kind of in everything they do, not just the staff, the food, the decor, which is really important, but also because we have a little bit of an element of wanting to fly beyond, and so we want to make sure that we're going to be doing these events at places that really are spectacular. I mean, you come up here and the roof overlooking all of the city, and this is a place that you always remember.
Right.
Some of the other venues we'll be working with have beautiful rooftops as well, but some of them also just have really fantastic chefs and great menus that we can work with too.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. I hope you have a fantastic TIFF.
Well, I hope to see you very, very soon as we're out and about, and maybe we can grab a slight drink together and toast to TIFF.
Cheers.
Cheers.